Yo, 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 Happy New Year. I'm Paul Hickey with nooffseason.com, and I've got Gary from Hoops and Cards, the pod, hoopsandcards.com. He is the main man.
What's up, everybody?
Basketball Card Strategy Show. What's up, Gary? How you doing, man?
Awesome. Hey, it's great to be with you, Paul. Yeah, great to start the new year with another one of our shows. Always love talking to you. Yeah, man, we're video now too. We finally got a Hoops and Cards YouTube channel. So thanks for blazing the trail. We just want to imitate greatness. So want to follow what you're already doing. But I'm excited to talk hoops, man.
Congratulations. Check out Gary at his Hoops and Cards YouTube channel. And I wore my Darius Garland socks the other day.
Hey, nice.
Yeah, they actually looked pretty good and felt very comfortable. So I appreciate that.
You didn't freak out the relatives at Christmas with Darius's face on your feet?
My wife was a little freaked out by it, but my son Max was excited. He's
nice
a NBA fan, and he actually thought they were pretty cool. So
awesome.
13-year-old's opinion is worth something in the world we're creating content in. So,
dude, I got more themed and NBA character socks. I got Donovan Mitchell socks for Christmas from our family. I got Evan Mobley's. Those were like $4.99 on clearance at the Cavs game. So I'm like, yeah, loving the theme socks.
Love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited to talk to you. This is back-to-back shows for me today because Kendall and I did the Sports Card Strategy show earlier this morning, and it's just a great day to be creating content around sports cards. So I figured January 2nd, let's kick off the new year with a basketball card strategy show. And it's been too long. And Ziggy No says Happy New Year. Ziggy No, Happy New Year to you as well. Ziggy's in. Actually, let's take 2 seconds here. Gary and I are in the Super Bowl of the content creator card league that Andy Kaysen put together at Football Card Quest, and Ziggy's in the league too. Ziggy unfortunately has not had this type of success that Gary and I have had. Gary and I are facing each other in the Super Bowl, and Gary, you need James Cook and Samaje Perine to just blow up tonight.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers came through for me big yesterday. I was surprised. I didn't know if we were going to be able to like connect after the war going on between our two teams. You have been awesome. Have you lost a game this season, Paul? Like I'm just happy to be in the game.
I was 12-0, and then I lost, I think, in week 13, and I haven't lost since, knock on wood. So just one loss. This is by far the best fantasy success I've had in the league since I've played fantasy football. I played multiple leagues since like 2003, and this is the best I've ever done. So.
Hey, it's probably because of that fantasy football startup guide you did at the beginning, right? Yes.
Yeah.
All
Thanks
those
for dropping the plug.
That insider scoop, man. And yeah, I'm pumped up that I have something else to get excited regarding football because Ohio State losing like they did in the fourth quarter, a game that they should have won on so many levels.
Yep.
Michigan, same way, as much as I'm not a Michigan fan, obviously, but to see them lose a game, they easily could have won. So
I am an anti-Michigan fan.
Yeah.
I literally watch, so I'm a huge Michigan State fan, have been since I was born, basically. I was predestined to be a Michigan State fan based on my family. But anyway, what I realized about myself, I realized this probably 10 years ago, but I watch Michigan games with the same fandom that I watch Michigan State games, but just with the other way around. Like I get as much satisfaction out of Michigan losing.
I was rooting for TCU the entire time.
Yeah, I was.
I just wish it wasn't so controversial, these targeting calls. Yeah,
that's fine. Let it be controversial. No, but I think I'm with you. Like probably 5 years ago, I would have been upset that it was so controversial, but now I'm just like, who cares? Like,
it's a
give
game.
Michigan fans more to whine about. That's all. Great. Let them be miserable today.
That's right. Yeah, hey, Harbaugh is fluent in wine, so we're used to that.
Thank you. I would agree. All right, so I prepared some topics for today, but then you actually texted me something that I think is a better topic than anything that I came up with. And so your text message was basically what are you doing? Your basketball card rankings at nooffseason.com don't have Damian Lillard, Kevin Durant, or Lauri Markkanen. Is this a mistake? Are you updating your rankings right now?
I figured you were in the middle of rearranging numbers or something. And
no, I mean, I'm actually really glad you brought this up because thank you, first of all, for paying attention to the rankings. I love it when people actually, pay attention to. I love it when people question the rankings because they're definitely my rankings. They're definitely me, especially basketball. Like baseball, I get a lot of help from Kendall. Football, I do mainly myself, but I get a lot of help from Andy. Basketball, I get a lot of help from you because you're very tuned in. And so when you question my rankings, it actually signifies, I think, my investing philosophy probably versus where you're at. And so this is actually a great topic because there's no wrong answer, but the short answer to my question overall, and we can dig into each because there's multiple reasons behind each player. Like why are those three players specifically not in the rankings? And for those of you who aren't familiar with nooffseason.com, we've got rankings, sports card rankings by player for all of the sports. Today, we're going to talk about basketball, but for basketball, there's 60 players ranked. I do not have Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, or Lauri Markkanen in the top 60. That is not a mistake. That is actually by design. And the short answer is that I put these rankings together based on like, who would I spend my money on? Who would I spend my actual money on? And thus, who would I feel good about recommending that the audience spend their money on? And it's as simple as that. And then with a added layer of, I make the decision of spending my money based on clear markers in the future for players' cards going up. And so, Gary, let's talk about each of these players and kind of, I want your take on each one. So let's start with Durant. Because Durant's the most obvious, like, why would Paul not have Kevin Durant in the top 60? Like that's
right. And especially now with Brooklyn being on fire, and I think they've won something like 11 in a row. And I am like you, I do my rankings, came out with them on our last episode on the podcast and the YouTube channel and went through the top 20 right now, did a countdown of the top 20 that I have been doing every couple of weeks this season. And it was the first time where I have moved Durant back into the top 10 for me. And I don't like him as a player. I'm not going to invest in Kevin Durant cards. One of the things that's awesome about the NBA is there are so many stars. There are so many great players in the game right now, guys that are on the trajectory to be Hall of Famers, Kawhi Leonard, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, James Harden, Giannis, there's so many guys. And so when we recommend a guy, I like that you at times are very objective about pricing and value and the market and why you're getting into players. And I like that I don't have to buy players that I don't like their team. Like you said, we don't like Michigan. I'll always have a thing against Steph Curry because he beat my Cavaliers, but I admit dude's a top 10, long-term investment. But yeah, I was shocked to see KD not on your list. And so what's your deal, man? What do you,
yeah,
I love that we can go back and forth because I made a list of guys I absolutely love where you have them on the list, guys that maybe I think are a little too high or a little too low. I could be off. And then guys like Lillard, KD, and who was the other guy?
Markkanen was the other one.
Yeah, Lauri.
Yeah.
So what's your deal?
Each have very different reasons. I think it's good to start with KD because he's probably the most controversial snub from the list. And it's a multitude of factors. One is, so I've studied KD's pricing of his top cards since early 2021. And, the market in general is down since early 2021. But independently of that, Kevin Durant specifically, in spite of like lower print runs back then for some of his cards, maybe not the white Topps 2007 team set, I think was like one of the more mass produced sets, but everything else, I think you could say has a lower print run. And the fact that he has like Topps Chrome, he has a lot of really nice cards. He's got Fleer, he's got Topps. some of the cards that like haven't been made for a while. So there's uniqueness about his cards, which typically means rarity. And so you could say, well, he's got that going for him. But in spite of that, his prices have not increased. Like that, they have gone down. And I think so one factor is that even when he made the playoff run against the Bucks, where he had his toe on the line against the Bucks, and like you could say, well, that's going to be one of the greatest Kevin Durant, other than him winning finals MVPs with Golden State and stuff, for his current Nets team. It's going to be hard for him to beat that playoff run where he lost against the Bucks and he was dominant with Kyrie and James Harden out, and it had his toe not been on the line, blah, blah, blah. Like they would have won that game, et cetera, gone to the finals. They would have played against Phoenix. Maybe they would have beat Phoenix. Who knows? But actually I think would they have had to beat Atlanta first?
I don't remember
either. Anyway,
that sounds right. Atlanta made it to the conference.
I think they would have had to beat Atlanta first and then play against, I think. But anyway, the point is, I think everybody remembers that as the Nets sort of championship versus the Bucks championship, just because of the way that the bracket fell that year and everything. And so his prices, they've gone down. And so when you look at, I'm going to share my screen real quick for those of you who are on YouTube here following the live stream. I've got several players pulled up, so it's going to take me a second. Here we go. So Kevin Durant, in spite of his dominant play recently with the Nets, he's averaging nearly 30 points, 7 rebounds, over 5 assists per game, and he's got the Nets in second place in the Eastern Conference. So the argument is like, clearly he's one of the top guys. In spite of this, though, like his market is still down in the last 60 days. It's only up 3.7% in the last 30 days. You could argue it is up 12% in the last 14, but in the last 7, it's only up 5. So in spite of his play, his market doesn't reflect his dominance. And that concerns me because it's almost like when you bet on a favorite in sports betting, you have to put so much money in to only earn a certain percentage. And I feel like with KD, there's a huge risk in investing in any of his cards because the assumption is he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and he's going to be this long-term, he's going to have long-term markers, Hall of Famer, blah, blah, blah. I don't think any of that matters as much nearly anymore as the factors of what is his potential, what is his fan base, and what do the numbers actually prove that his market's going to do. So I think we've seen more than enough sample size of data with KD, in spite of his good play, in spite of who he is as a top 15 player of all time when he retires. And, his ability to score and all that, his prices do not move to the level that they would need to move for me to say buy KD's cards. And so I have to objectively look at this as, you can have a hypothesis about a guy and you can say emotionally, he's this, he's that, he's the other. I want to do that with a guy like Magic Johnson. His prices don't really do anything either. Now he's not playing anymore, but KD is on the verge of not playing anymore either. And so I think to recap the argument real quick, it's sort of outdated older cards. So that kind of limits his market to a certain age range of people who really appreciate those cards and understand why you would want to buy those cards. Then you've got the market having not done anything in spite of his good play. And then you've got this more recent sample size of he's dominating. Surely you got to move him up, Paul. Well, now it's like, now you have to pay more to get his cards. Now, if anything, this is sell Kevin Durant. Sell Kevin Durant now. And so I wouldn't put him in my top 60. I wouldn't buy Kevin Durant cards. That's where I stand on him. And take me down on this one though.
I'm about to. I'm about to push back just a bit. After saying again, personally, I don't like the guy. Like I don't enjoy the drama in Brooklyn. I don't enjoy the angry face all the time and him being like the villain. So I don't love KD at all. which might add some credibility to this. I think Durant was already playing at the beginning of the season at an MVP level for sure, and it didn't do anything for his cards. But your point about the last 7 or 14 days seeing a bit of an uptick isn't just because of KD, it's because of Brooklyn. And if Brooklyn is going to thrust themselves back into the push for the Eastern Conference title, which they could, I would say the odds are against them. I think drama is going to happen. But if Brooklyn continues to beat up on other teams in the East and other contending teams, that's going to be a big story at the All-Star game and going into the playoffs. And if I'm going to invest in a Brooklyn net, it's not going to be Seth Curry. It's not going to be Kyrie. It's going to be the guy who's, like you said, top 15 all time. And he's not in your 60, but you've got Steph Curry and LeBron James on your list. Like, I don't see big upside in their market. I don't see the same thing you just said about when is KD going to do something new and greater. Well, I don't know when Jason Tatum or Giannis are going to do anything new or greater than they did. And I'm a guy who loves those 4 players I just mentioned. I don't like KD, but I have to acknowledge, dude, if his market's down, still down, a lot of paper rookies available at a better buying point than they were even during. The thing is, as you're talking about KD, I'm thinking it's kind of like a microcosm of the entire market, right? All players we could say are down from 21. And here's a guy who's playing great on the court, but you're right, barely an increase at this point. So I see the points on both sides. I just think if Brooklyn's going to contend, KD would be the guy to watch. And I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah. Great argument. I think if you do believe in the Brooklyn Nets contending, I would buy Kevin Durant cards. Again, my opinion based on what I've seen, I don't recommend buying Kevin Durant cards. And I think that you also make a great point about the other guys. The same, you could use my exact argument against me for all of those other guys. And
right.
I think that the determining factor for me is that what you said, which is you don't like Kevin Durant. Neither do I. Name me somebody who ever in a conversation likes Kevin Durant. Like, right. They've got to be out there. Like,
did you ever see last year when he and LeBron drafted the All-Star teams and LeBron was cracking jokes with Barkley and Shaq the whole time and having a blast? KD looked like he had just gotten his wisdom teeth pulled and he's just sitting there like angry at the world. I'm like, dude, like I know he doesn't have to sell his brand or anything. He just like no personality. I don't know. So
kudos to him for being a dominant basketball player.
Sure.
Clearly going to be one of the top 15, I think, of all time. Just doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter in his card market. And he's just not, I don't think he's a player that any of the young people in the sports card world care about at all. And I think that is a driver of the price. Huge. I think people transacting at the level with which we talk about the data, 14 days, 30 days, 7 days. I think those people are, I could be wrong, but I think they're people in the age range of say 15 to 35 or 50, that's younger. I'm going to be 42 this year. So like when I say the younger people, I'm not necessarily including myself, but I'm saying like he's relevant to me, but I just don't think KD is relevant to the majority of the market that are going to transact in these cards. I think you could get a one-off KD. I guess 2 things I'll say. You could get a one-off KD card that's super rare that maybe some famous rich KD super collector is going to buy that could drive up the market. Sure. Or you could get, or there could be plays. Like there could be plays that can be made. Like, do you see raw Kevin Durant rookie cards that can grade well? And that's an actual question for you. Like when you're out there, because you've been out there more than I have, pounding the pavement at LCSs and card shows.
That's a great point.
Raw gradable 2007 KD rookies, because those would be a play.
No, I'll just say this. I don't see those. And the thing is, I've looked. And I've realized there are tons and tons of already graded, tops and tops chrome KD rookies out there. And I don't know if PSA and these other grading companies have a bias again. Like once they get a certain pop count, they're not willing to see a 10 or a 9. But older paper cards, man, they're so hard to get a 9 or a 10 on. I sent in 3 this last group. I got back a Kobe Bryant rookie, so that's a little older, right? 96. That came back as a PSA 5. I'm like, I obviously don't know what I'm doing. Like, but there's so many of them. And then I got a Giannis rookie that was a 7. I'm like, what was I thinking? That's for the PC now because it's not worth what I hoped it would be. But I got a LeBron rookie. It was one of those matrix cards with a little square of LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Darko Milicic. A cool looking card that I, as a LeBron fan, I really didn't care what it would grade, but it did get a 9. And so I'm like, all right, sometimes, and a 9 in those cards was well worth my, I paid $20 for it. It's probably worth 100 as a 9. So that's a thing. But no, I've looked at a lot of Durant paper cards and been like, if you want to take the risk, you better have 5 or 6 other friends say that looks really sharp, like those corners and that surface, and they may already have to know the Durant card market to do that. My pushback isn't that you should have Durant in your top 10 necessarily. I just think top 60,
maybe
got to be on the list, or make a different list, man. Like, do a prospect list for your Moses Moody fans, and do a GOATs list, right? Because that is a different conversation.
Yeah, I just don't see Kevin Durant. I just don't think he's investable. I don't think that you will make money on Kevin Durant cards. And I think that you can make money on Moses Moody cards. I'm not saying that like I'm buying. I mean,
I hope Moses Moody can make money playing basketball next year. Like there's a lot of prospects that I don't know what to think about them. Right? Like the NBA is
that's
weird.
Another thing I wanted to talk to you about for sure. So, but and I also feel like I could segue on the name Darko Milicic for like 5 hours, but I really, that could be a topic for another day. But I love that you mentioned his name on the basketball card strategy.
I didn't even think about your Detroit love for that. So that's just for you, Paul.
That could have been multiple more championships if we would have taken any of the 3 guys that were drafted after him. But
and the other thing, like you mentioned, KD, Lillard, and I guess Markkanen, those would be guys who are on a lot of other people's lists. So it's good to hear your rationale behind, not because the card market.
I'm not trying to be a contrarian with this, but I am I'm taking advantage of the fact that nooffseason.com is my place to put my opinions, and when I have strong opinions, to say like Darius Garland is the next Steph Curry, for example. That's where like this is the thing, because I don't, other than that, it's not as fun. It's not as fun for me if I have to like include KD in the top 60 because I should, because but I don't, just because we disagree on that doesn't mean that you're wrong. I mean, you're probably right. He probably should be in the top 60, but I'm not going to put him there because I don't think you can make money on his cards. So call me crazy.
What about Lillard?
Good call. So Lillard's a great segue from KD because it's for a lot of the same reasons. Yeah. But I will say, I would probably move Lillard up before KD for one key reason that has sort of materialized within the last few weeks. And I haven't updated my basketball card rankings. I haven't overhauled the rankings in the last 3 weeks. I think the last time I overhauled them was probably sometime in late November, early December. I've updated them, but I haven't like completely thought through like how they all fit together. And so the reason why Lillard could make an appearance back in the top, probably even 40 or even 30, is because like he has cemented himself as a Portland Trailblazer. He has come back and he's clearly going to be a Trailblazer for life. He broke their all-time scoring record. He's on a path to like break all of their all-time records. And so I do think in the long term that could count for something in his long-term card market. If the Blazers are competitive, which the reason why I'm leaving him out of the top 60, a lot of it has to do with, I don't believe the Blazers are going to be relevant. I think that they look good. They're looking better in the regular season. I think like they're looking much better than they did last year. With the pieces that they have coming together, and they're exciting. They can score and they're winning some games. But for really the same reasons. I mean, in spite of Damian Lillard coming back and averaging nearly 30 points and over 7 assists per game, you don't see any of the movement in his card market that you would expect to see. And unlike Durant, I don't like Durant's cards. Like, I think this is another thing like Kendall and I talk about is like the opinion that people have on the design and the cards themselves come into play for me with KD and Lillard. Like, they're older cards and they're from this era that I don't, to me personally, like, you'd have to sell me on like, what is it? A 2012 NBA hoops, like what are Lillard's cards? Like, what are they even, like, the cards to buy? I mean, they're like, 2012, he's got weird brands like Panini Brilliance. He's got the hoops. He of course has a prism. I don't think his prism has an RC logo on it, which that's another thing about
right. And
Kawhi
the cheap
Leonard.
Panini brand that's just
Weird Panini brands from this
Uh-huh.
era. Like, so that plays into it with Lillard. Like, I want you to make the case for Lillard, but for me, you've got the same market factors. You've got the same things we talked about with Durant. I don't want to be a broken record. I think this guy fades off into oblivion like an Isaiah Thomas, kind of. Like, Isaiah Thomas is a great all-time player. Like, if Isaiah Thomas, like, where is he in the vintage basketball? He's nowhere. So, like, Lillard is going to be a Portland hero. He's going to have like that niche market to where you can sell his cards to that niche market. That's something, but that's going to be it. And I don't think he does anything else really that's going to spike his market. So I don't like his card. I don't like any of his cards. Which cards would you buy?
Right.
All right. So what do you have? Why Lillard? Why should people buy Lillard?
So when Lillard came back from injury this season again and started to put up 30, 40, 50 points, for him to continue doing this 10 years into the league and have a chance to not only be in the All-Star game, but start the All-Star game is going to be a statement about his greatness moving forward. Already one of the top 75. And I think you're a Pistons guy, right? To say about any of these players playing currently, for them to fade away like Isaiah Thomas would be a success story. It wouldn't be a failure. The same questions you're asking about Portland not contending. I would say I'm nervous about long-term. Is Charlotte ever going to contend? Are we going to be talking about LaMelo in 5 years going, there was a bubble? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is Oklahoma City ever going to win something? Even though they're early on, and I think there's upside and potential greatness in store for them, right? I just see Lillard as being the best player ever to play in Portland is a good thing. And I get it's not like being LeBron James or Steph Curry, but I got to put him in the top 60. What cards to buy. I would be smart about any player with any cards you'd buy. Want to get cards that are autographed, numbered, mint condition, right? Something that you can buy low and sell high. Cards that might already have a great range. Like, you might find a Lillard silver PSA 10 prism that's down 40% from what it was a year ago, and you buy it now and sell it at the All-Star game for 20% profit. I realize too, we bounce back and forth between being fans of players and investors, right?
Yeah, definitely.
The more I like a player, the more I want to hold on to his cards for longer. So, and maybe miss out on some of those up and downs. I assume that's a Lillard graph you're looking at.
It's a Lillard
just
graph.
A gradual.
And to your point earlier, like, I agree that, like, you can manipulate numbers and you can say like the point you made earlier about KD was the argument that I made about the numbers versus what they've done and what they could do as a marker to move up their market. KD's kind of in the same conversation as Giannis and Tatum and even Steph. That makes sense. I think the difference with Lillard versus, you brought up LaMelo Ball. I could be wrong, but my opinion is that LaMelo Ball is super relevant. And Lillard, like, this is going to sound really stupid, but like, I don't think Lillard is as relevant as LaMelo Ball not from an NBA fan perspective. From an NBA fan perspective, I'd get slaughtered saying that, because like we just talked about all the reasons why Lillard's super relevant from an NBA fan perspective. But when you look at like who's gonna transact on these cards, I think you're looking at people that think LaMelo, like to them, LaMelo Ball is more relevant. Like what is LaMelo Ball doing? Like what's he doing on the court? What's he doing off the court? Putting up, I mean, LaMelo
we love some recency bias in the hobby, right? I mean, people fawned all over Zion and Ja, and those two guys led the market. Nobody claimed they were the two best players in the NBA at the time, but you're right. We love the possibilities, the potential, what a prospect could be, right? Who's next? You
just summed up what I was trying to say in 2 words: recency bias. So thank you.
Recency biase.
But I think what you're going to
makes sense in the market.
With this Damian Lillard, like this is his 2012 Prism-based PSA 10, pop 1084, and it's basically just a straight line for the last 90 days. So like 90 days ago was the beginning of the NBA season. This is the same time period where he's come back, done all these great things. There hasn't even been a spike in his top card. So to me, that says like what's the upside of buying this card? Whereas like LaMelo, you could have bought his card really low when he injured his ankle, and now he's out there putting up triple doubles. Now you could say what does relevant mean? Like relevant, like the Charlotte Hornets losing a game where LaMelo puts up a triple double, that's not relevant. And Damian Lillard breaking the Trailblazers all-time scoring record is super relevant.
Yeah.
But what I mean by relevant is like when LaMelo Ball's prices go up after he comes back, that tells me he's more relevant to the people that are trying to make money flipping sports cards than Damian Lillard is, when you've got Damian Lillard doing far more relevant things on the court and his pricing doesn't move. So
it's almost like we need a different word than relevant. Maybe like liquid or like more popular. Because
liquid's a good word.
You're not saying anything about Lillard's game necessarily. You're saying more eyeballs are on LaMelo, and I get that.
Popular. I think you're absolutely right. Liquid and popular are much better terms to describe my point. And really, in short, the point is, where's the upside? I don't see the upside at all in KD or Lillard's cards. I see those guys as like, I'm gonna have to bet. I'm gonna have to put down $1,000 on the favorite to win 100 versus, and I don't bet. So like somebody could tell me actually what those odds are, but like those are like, I don't want that. Like I might have better odds of winning the $100, but I have to put up 1,000 to win 100. Whereas like LaMelo, all I have to do is put up 50 to win 10 or 20 or 30. Those are going to be the guys that I move up the rankings versus the guys I'm moving down, going like super expensive to buy a Lillard or KD card that could actually move up with the risk of it really.
That's a great point.
Moving up like 5%. That I'm not going to do that. I don't want to advise people to do that.
I agree. And another word to, if you apply it right, I guess LaMelo's a sexier pick.
Yep.
Just because eyeballs on him, he's in the news. When he gets a triple double, it's a big Sports Center thing. When Lillard does it, it's like, yeah, we've seen that movie for 10 years. And there's something about us that we were drawn to the new attractive thing, and we want to be there for the ride. Like we want to be there when LaMelo does all the firsts,
Yep.
And Lillard has done a lot. Like he is a Hall of Famer, and you're not investing in the excitement of a graph that's ahead. You're investing in maybe he's a good long term if you can buy really low, right? Or if you still believe he's going to lead the Blazers to something or join another team. I don't know. I just know again, top 60 and a season where he could be starting the All-Star game, even though he's not doing anything new. I think that's probably the thing. We love what's new. We love what has the potential to do something new.
And when Lillard and KD were I think at one point, if you looked at nooffseason.com over the summer or even in the fall, Lillard and KD were in my top 30. KD's been in my top 15. The reason why I've moved him out is because there hasn't been that transaction that actually spikes value. Like no one's no one's come onto their team and they haven't gone onto anyone else's team. And so with that possibility basically being gone now because they're playing well and solidified there, I don't see a marker. The only marker that I see, well, you named the markers and I agree with you. Those could be good markers, but I'm not convinced that they will happen. And even if they do happen, the amount of money that I would have to put in to get their card would outweigh the real upside. So I guess, yeah, before we talk about Markkanen and other cards that we are buying,
Sure.
I think all of the points you made, I agree could move these guys up into certainly the top 60. So I'm going to have to give this some serious thought, but I think we're not as far apart as we thought we were because we're saying the same things, but I just happen to have said, look, I don't even want to mess with these guys. Like I want people to there's already so many possibilities where people could put their money in the hobby and within basketball cards that I want to kind of weed these guys out because I think they're too, I don't see the upside. I don't see the markers actually panning out. So, all right, cool. So we want to get into Markkenan. Why don't you lead the discussion on Markkenan? Like I need to be sold why this guy even should be considered for the top 60.
Yeah. We just came off a conversation about a guy guys who don't have new markers or new achievements in front of them. And even though Utah is not, they don't have a winning record anymore. Like they've kind of returning to planet Earth. Markkanen's game is still all-star worthy. Like he's still putting up 25 plus a night, still playing solid defense. And he's still a candidate, I think, for most improved player in the season. And so that's where the upside would be. That's where I would say, along with, there are more options on buying cheap Markkanen rookie cards, autos, silvers, patches. That's all still a thing. At the same time, I do see it's no surprise that Utah is returning to Earth, and they still have to blow some stuff up. They still have lots of trade assets and some moves ahead of them. And I think they would be smart not to say, oh, wow, we're a good team. All we need is 2 or 3 more pieces. And if we consolidate some of these picks, no, I think the smart move for them, they might even regret having a good start, because it's going to keep them out of the top half of the lottery. But all that being said, my Markkanen inclusion would be like, man, at the least, I think he's going to be the hometown all-star representative in Salt Lake City in February, and that's the thing. So I don't think that the short-term flipping opportunity for Markkanen is over. And I also think he's still, 24 years old or less. So there's a longer play too if you're a fan. And I like what you said, that there's so many options in the hobby that you don't have to like guys. You don't have to invest in them just because you feel like you should. That's never true. That's never true. And maybe that's when I look at my list, I've started to weed out prospects and guys that do have upside, but I just don't see them getting the opportunities yet. And so I think my list, you could push back and say, you need to be more patient with this guy. Or as this guy is Cam Thomas, as this guy's not getting to play a lot, that just means his buying window is going to last a little longer. Like at some point, right? I love seeing guys get an opportunity to play extended minutes and achieve their potential. Back to Markkanen, he's finally doing that. I think there's still a lot of good there.
Yeah, I think I could what I would say with Markkanen is, in all fairness, and I think if you're going to buy Markkanen, now would be a much better time than when Utah was winning. Cause he is still putting up the numbers, but Utah's lost 4 games in a row. So now they're actually out of they're 10th in the West, which is they were first in the West
right
weeks ago. So so Markkanen, now his top cards have actually moved down quite a bit to where it could actually make sense. And so
it's true.
To be fair, maybe he should be in the top 60. I think that the reason why he's not, a couple different things. The reason why he's not is because I just saw a graphic about Bojan Bogdanovic from Slab Stocks, because Bojan Bogdanovic is playing really well for my Pistons, but his 2014 Prism is up like 50%, but it's only up to like $47. So like what that means is that you would have had to hold on to a Bojan Bogdanovic PSA 10 for like 8 years or so for it to go up from like $27 to $47, which like is that Lauri Markkanen? Like, I think that's probably Lauri Markkanen. Like, I think if you buy Lauri Markkanen base 2017 Prism base PSA 10 right now for $30, I think that you will have a couple markers in the next 6 years where that card could go up to $60, but you got to sell it right away. Like you got to sell it like right then. Like, so if you're going to make a play on Lauri Markkanen, listen to Gary. What he's saying is like, basically buy it now, but then like sell it when he is the hometown representative at the All-Star break. And there is some sort of human interest piece around him in Utah. The other thing that I would say is like, if you're super savvy, find Lauri Markkanen cards like in the $5 bins that look gradable in like cities that don't care about the Utah Jazz, which is literally every city other than Utah. And then go to a card, like bring them all to a card show or a card shop in Utah, or sell them specifically in a Facebook group to people who are like collecting Lauri Markkanen cards. Like,
I sent a few
targeted about your Lauri Markkanen play.
Like literally 3 weeks ago, I was finding Markkanen Prism base and Prism green for $3 to $5, and I bought a few of those and sent some to Chad and Tim from Pack to the Futures podcast, because they are in Salt Lake City, so they loved getting those. But there's a short-term flip opportunity, like with the raw Markkanens, you could buy for $3 to $5 and then just list them on eBay for $10. They'll sell eventually. You know, if it's February, fine, you've doubled your money, you pay eBay $1 and you do it again. You know, some people need the short-term flipping opportunities to level up. That's what I've done a lot of, and I see Markkanen as, like you said, even the one you said, PSA 10 for $30. So say that you were able to low offer a guy who's listed it for 30, send him an offer for 22, see if he bites. Maybe he comes down to 25, 24. You buy it, sell it in February for 39. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's a thing, finding low budget deals like that.
I mean, props to you for, and this is kind of where we can take the rest of the show content, I think, in this direction, is like, props to you for like finding these, because I will give much more credence to the Lauri Markkanen plays than the Kevin Durant and Damian. I know it's crazy to say,
right?
But like Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard, just for clarity, are two of the all-time greats. Like, they could each go down as a top 25 NBA player of all time, which is amazing.
Yeah.
That might not mean squat to their card market. Like, it might not mean that their cards ever go up from this point in time, because their cards already have a lot of pricing baked in. They already have a lot of markers baked into their pricing. A guy like Lauri Markkanen, we talked about LaMelo Ball. We could Gary and I could name like 500 other players similar to Lauri Markkanen that are more intriguing to me than Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard for that reason, because there is that play. So props to you for making those plays and for bringing that content out. And I think if the rankings are more geared around sitting and looking at eBay listings, or picking up, or buying cards however you are most comfortable buying cards, and then essentially selling them online. Like, the ProOffSeason.com is specifically geared towards, can I make money buying a card on eBay, letting it sit in a vault, or shipping it to myself and letting it sit in my desk for a specific amount of time where I can pinpoint, now here's the time to then list it and sell it. Whereas like ranking people like Markkanen, Durant, and Lillard, to me, don't fit that as much as like saying creatively, buy a Markkanen card here in this way and then do this to it and then flip it. So I think, just to kind of put a bow on this conversation, it's not that these three guys aren't worthy of
Sure.
being in your collection or worthy of buying. It's that they're not as turnkey for me as 60 other guys are. And so but that could change tomorrow, and I could update the rankings, and all of a sudden there could be a new reason why I think maybe they are turnkey. So, because like I said, 2 months ago, there were reasons why those reasons are not there anymore. And so now
Right.
they're out of the
Right.
top.
And I love about the hobby too. There are so many options, and there are players that I can buy if I'm aiming for a short-term flip and it doesn't work out, that I would still be happy holding on to their cards. I'd still enjoy that player. For me, I've never thought that way about Jordan Poole, and I felt maybe I should have been. No, I've got Darius Garland. Like I'm willing to hold those cards longer. I've got 10 guys that I feel that way about, and those are the guys I would focus on. So yeah, there are so many good options.
So here's what I want to do next. I want to do two things before we end the show. One thing is going to be to throw a few names out to you and I'm going to ask you to either say, this guy could be like a Damian Lillard type player in his market someday, or in another market someday, or this guy's going to be more like your Bojan Bogdanovic, where like you hold on to him for years before his pricing finally doubles for some random reason because he's putting up 30 points a game for a crappy team like the Pistons. So there's opposite ends of the spectrum. And then the second thing I want to do is just talk about, like, if I'm going to talk about who I'm buying and why, and what you're probably going to see in the sports card investment rankings at nooffseason.com. Because I've narrowed down my buying window to just a few guys, and I am a basketball card guy first. So most of these guys are basketball card guys. So I've been most excited to talk to you about them. But first, let's play this game of like, so right. These are guys that, like, as I've watched more basketball, they're kind of standing out to me, and I'm going, and they're not names that we haven't talked about before, but they're just names that can kind of get easily lost in, like, guys maybe you should be spending money on, or maybe you shouldn't be spending money on. So let's start with Quentin Grimes, because, like, he's a guy that you threw out there in the offseason. And as I did research in him and his card prices and who he is, I thought, yeah, Gary's got something here. Like, this is interesting. And now I've watched the Knicks play a little bit. They don't look that bad. They look like they could actually, like, and if the Knicks don't look that bad, that's significant because of their market size. And so now you've got Grimes, like, starting, and he's only in his third year, and his rookie cards are pretty affordable. So the Knicks currently sit at 8th in the East at 19 and 18. Grimes, I don't have his stats in front of me, but I have watched him play. His cards, like, for example, his 2021 Donruss Optic rated rookie auto PSA 10, that's $140 card. Ungraded it's under $30 ungraded. So Grimes is intriguing for those reasons. And then the same thing can be said about his Panini Prism Rookie Signatures 2021 in PSA 10. That's like less than $100 card. Ungraded is less than a $30 card. We've seen sales even of that card as low as $12 in December. So when you can buy a guy like that and have his cards graded, or buy an already graded PSA 10 for pretty affordable price, like, where do you see Grimes as a guy who's, like, you know, is he going to have like a Brunson trajectory, or is he going to have like a trajectory where he just kind of falls off a cliff and just becomes a guy?
Great question. Love the example. I almost said quickly, pun intended. Very quickly on Quentin Grimes, I see him as an ideal buy and grade opportunity right now. I see, like you said, buy a cheap Grimes silver hollow or autograph card that you and others have looked at and said that's well centered. You know, there's no print lines, all that stuff. Buy now you can get I got a Grimes silver prism for like $3 at the last card show. Again, buying in person or buying, as a saved search on eBay. There's so many card dealers and buyers and sellers that they're only focused on the big names, and sometimes they'll throw Grimes in their dollar box as a silver still. And does he have the potential to be a 20-point game scorer for his career? Yeah. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. But I do think right now the fact that he has that potential, and that he's having some big games make him a worthy short-term buy-in grade. Absolutely. I feel that way about Trey Murphy the third as well, and probably 15 other players in the NBA right now, just as buy-in grade, partially because, like I said, you can still buy raw for cheap. The other part is they have low pop counts. Like there's a very low pop count on a guy like Quentin Grimes, so there's an opportunity.
That's awesome. I love that content. So the next guy is Franz Wagner. In a weird way, as much as I love the 2021 NBA draft class with Cade and Mobley and Barnes and Jalen Green, I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Could Franz Wagner actually be the best player in the 2021 draft class? Like when we look back at this, like his game just looks really fluid, smooth. Like he's like 6'8", but he plays shooting guard,
smart, mature.
As talented as the Magic are. Like, and it sounds weird to say that, but they are super talented and they're actually really deep. Like, don't you want the ball in his hands at the end of the game in like a game-winning situation? Like I'd want the ball in Franz Wagner's hands.
So have you watched him play a lot? Like, is that part of your NBA League Pass adventure?
Yes, Magic are in my League Pass shortlist for sure.
Yeah, and the hard thing just about him is Orlando. Is who are they? What are they going to do? And even Paolo, like he's coming back down to planet Earth as not necessarily like his first 6 to 10 games. His stats were like LeBron's debut. He was on fire. I love Wagner as an all around player. I agree with you. One of the best in that class. If you're an Orlando fan, absolutely get a good deal on his rookie cards and hang on to it and enjoy the ride. I think he's got a great career in front of him. Do I think he has the potential to be a big name that moves the needle in the hobby? No, I don't. That's where I'd say, you can talk about his stats just like you do with Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
20 point scorer, decent percentages, good rebounder on a crap team. Like how long is that a thing?
Yeah. I'm glad that you said that because that's kind of why I brought up Bojan is Franz Bojan actually, or is he like, I mean, Dirk would be weird to say because they don't really play the same position, but like, is he a franchise guy or is he like Bojan? And like, that's, I think the risk you run if you were to, I have never bought a single of a Franz Wagner card. And I think that probably answers my own question.
Yeah. I mean, Dan Marley, like what are we looking for guys that could be a number one option on an offense on a contending team? I think that's what I'm looking at. And a guy that has some fan appeal beyond his own fan base. So, I mean, because same things we could say are about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but his fan appeal and his upside are unquestioned. Yeah. Like it's a different level. So
yeah, I agree. I think you're right. But I wanted to double check with the basketball card master himself.
Dude, I could talk about my mistakes just as much. I've got some a graveyard of Nickeil Alexander-Walker cards over there. So and other players that I wish, like all the guys I was excited about going into this season seem to be getting injured, like Maxey and Bane, and
I got excited about Zaire Williams a little prematurely.
Still good, love him.
Just came back. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully he can earn some more minutes and make an impact. But I mean, he fits that profile of like 6'9", plays all the positions for Memphis, like top 10 pick. Like it's there, right? But you just, it's never always there. All right, my last guy real quick is Keldon Johnson. I know you're a fan of his. I know you've spoken very, very highly of him. And I just wanted to kind of reset on Keldon Johnson. What's your take on like, and I watched him play. So these are three guys like that I've seen play now more than I ever have in the last few weeks, and saw him play and was super impressed. Just in the little snippet I saw, how he gets out and runs and hustles and makes things happen. And he's a scorer and kind of does everything. Mm-hmm. Big fan of his as a result of that. But from a card perspective, where do you see him?
Yeah, I still see him as too cheap, and as a player that most sports card generalists don't realize how good he is. And at the same time, I wouldn't buy his cards expecting quick profit. Yeah, I think he's a good buy and grade possible. I thought he was a possible all-star coming into the season, and he's been up and down scoring wise. And they've also got another young player, Devin Vassell, who looks fantastic. So one of the things I would ask your opinion on, like you sometimes these good players get in kind of the middle ground of, yeah, they're a prospect we should know about. They've got NBA talent. There are cards worth buying at the super cheap level, but don't expect them to pop tomorrow. Don't expect them to have breakout all-star season and be the Lauri Markkenan that we're talking about in a month. That's not going to happen. And at the same time, they shouldn't be in the dollar boxes either. They're good deals. And so here's my long-term, like, what if for a team like San Antonio, you say that you're buying dollar box Devin Vassells or Keldon Johnsons, and you're just putting them in a box somewhere. And then in May or whatever, the Spurs win the lottery and they're adding Victor Wembanyama. And all of a sudden the Spurs are like bigger deal than the Pelicans have been the last few years with Zion. Like, the Spurs become the darlings of the NBA. The Spurs start winning because you put Coach Popovich with Wembanyama and the team around him of wings and guards like Trey Jones and Vassell and Malachi Branham. Like they're loaded
all over again. It'd be like
it would.
Championship.
It would. And so you've got two guys that, by the way, is Wembanyama going to be the leading scorer of his team his rookie year if he's on the Spurs? Probably not.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he could be, but probably not when you've got two 20-point guys. So all that to say, you could be winding up with, you could say the same thing for your Sadiq Beys and your Jaden Ivies. If they add Victor, all of a sudden, longer term, that looks like a franchise to follow on their way up, right? And you bought dollar box values on guys who could be part of a big three in 3 years with Victor Wembanyama.
I like your thought.
Just got to temper your expectations a bit.
Totally.
Keldon.
And I think great. Okay. Good analysis on Keldon. And I'm glad you said the dollar box thing, because I think I may even want to, at some point on nooffseason.com, clarify, like you said earlier when we were arguing about, or debating is a better word, about Durant, Lillard, etc. You said probably should consider having rankings of different levels. And I wonder if it would make sense to have a dollar box ranking, and then a just straight up buy flip ranking, because I would put the three guys that we just mentioned, if you were to find a serial numbered rookie, a parallel rookie, really from any set, any licensed pro, set with a pro uniform, or just a really nice looking base prism or base optic hollow or something. Prism silver for sure. But of those guys, I would buy them for $5 and grade them and have them graded in the event that they do anything relevant, because that is a path to profit. And I was questioning the path to profit on KD and Lillard for all the reasons that we already discussed, but I'm not questioning the path to profit on buying these guys raw at shows or shops in the little color, colored stickers where it's orange is $5, yellow is 10, etc. Get those and then have them graded. And so, and it's important. It's important to know which dollar box names are worth pulling out of that box right now, and which cards. I'm not pulling a base rookie of Quentin Grimes out of the dollar box, but people are still putting colored and numbered cards of his in $5 or less boxes. That's a thing. And like you said, grading some of these. So I did mention taking the L on the Kobe Bryant Topps rookie, getting a PSA 5, and the Giannis getting a 7. In that same group, I sent in a Trey Murphy silver prism rookie, right? Trey Murphy the third, who I think has upside, but who knows if it's much. I don't know. All that to say, I spent less than $3 for that card. It got a 10, and some of those comps have been over $100 for a Trey Murphy silver PSA 10. And part of me is I should just sell it yesterday. And the other part of me is the entry point on good players for a silver PSA 10, that I wish I had bought 3 years ago, right?
So maybe I should hold it. I actually, this conversation is making me put it up for sale. For sale.
Yeah, sometimes
while
you
there's value.
talk it out on the show. Love it. So I think that like that's one thing that I highly encourage all of our listeners to do is make those in-person plays to grade in the tier of guys that we're talking about. But then there's there's a different tier, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So what I've noticed, I wrote in my December members only content newsletter at nooffseason.com is about several cards specifically from players that are down by 50% or more for the sole reason of it's December and nobody cares about basketball cards until probably February. So we still may or may not be in this same buying window, which is why I wanted to bring it up. But I want to narrow my focus basically to one guy and then maybe two others, just because I really
Who's your guy? Do you already do it?
Anthony Edwards. So
okay.
Anthony Edwards, optic blue
velocity.
This is a card that like easily was and easily should again be a $200 to $250 card. Got it for $128. Feel pretty good about that just based on the data. And then just I don't hate base prism PSA 10s.
Right.
So these are 2 out of 5 Anthony Edwards base prism PSA 10s that I bought just because I believe in the player and I believe in the base prism PSA 10 enough of the right player at the right time. These were $75 each basically. And these should be easily 150 to 200 at some other point in time based on all the factors that we
Well, and they were like 300 in the summer. Like Anthony Edwards was the hot name in September to go after.
And he's just easily putting up 30 point, like just every night. And that doesn't mean anything when you've got like, well, you had LeBron put up 47 on his birthday. Lillard's put up 40 multiple times. You've had tons of guys put up 40 multiple times. So like Anthony Edwards putting up 30 in just like a yawn situation for him doesn't like mean anything, but it will because like he'll just keep putting up 30 to the point where he becomes the guy. Like he will be the guy.
Yeah. And the challenge with the Minnesota is he's done a lot of that without Karl Anthony Towns there, and they're not winning. And so like they have to get Towns back to start winning. And is Edwards going to take a back seat to Towns again? I mean, I don't think so. I think he's their guy long term, like you said. But their potential is so tantalizing, like what they could do together, right?
And
what he's capable of as a scorer.
PSA 10 Prism for $75. Like
can't beat that.
Give me as many as I can possibly find, and so I found 5 of them, and so I'm looking at that as a thing where those are all gone in May, hopefully, for over $100 each. Maybe upwards of $200 each. It's all going to depend on what Gary and I are talking about, like his play on the court. But even if that doesn't materialize this year, that could almost be better for me because if he's not at that level this year, then I might be in for even more money in 2024, 2025, 2026 when this guy's still only 25, 26, 27. Like when he becomes Tatum, extrapolate that out, right? Like he's 3 years behind Tatum. So it's almost better. I'm impatient. It's almost better for me financially if he and Minnesota don't do anything for the next 2 years. Then he does something that these cards could be worth like what Tatum's have become. Now you could argue 2017 print run versus 2020 print run, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, the profit margin should still be the same. The other 2 guys that I'm just seeing the deals on, Jalen Green, same card, but this is 2021, obviously Prism PSA 10, like $60 for. I think like with shipping and everything and tax, $60. Got a couple of these, and then Cade Cunningham.
I was going to ask you about Cade. Yeah.
So. Super cheap. I mean, they're all less than $80 cards for these guys. And I just don't I don't see the down. There's no downside. Like the floor is high. Like I think worst case scenario, I can go through a roller coaster ride and end up selling these for the same price that I bought them for. Whereas the upside is huge with these three guys.
Yeah.
So I'm narrowing my focus to these types of guys. I did buy one Scotty Barnes Prism Ice for $60, PSA 10, 60
Okay.
bucks.
Okay.
And that fits in the same. I'm trying not to spread myself too thin with the players, but with the timing and the cards, that's where my focus is right now with basketball. How am I doing? Am I like, what? I need your help here. Like, be honest with me. Like, where am I going wrong? Am I doing it the right way here, Gary?
No, you're doing it the right way. Totally. The players that you have locked in on: Anthony Edwards, who else did you say?
Jalen Green, Cade Cunningham,
Cade Cunningham. Not crazy about Barnes, but the other three are awesome to have as PSA 10 rookies that there's always going to be a market for. When I say always, I mean the next year to 3 years for sure with those players. And then long-term absolute crazy upside on all of them. I'm surprised you didn't say, I mean, now's a great time to buy a Ja Morant base PSA 10 or still Zion. Like I see Zion having more immediate return as we get into the new year, and people are like, oh crap, he's doing this every night. Oh, he's still healthy. And people are starting to have more confidence in him, what they're investing in him, and remember his upside. The pop count doesn't seem to matter. He's still a popular player to go after when it comes to PSA 10s. The other guy that I guess I feel is in the same category, maybe a little bit lower, but still has a surprise factor to him is Desmond Bane. I know he hasn't fully returned from injury. I know that. But I also know before he was hurt, he was averaging 25 a game and career high in assists. Like they started to run the offense through him, and he took a burden off of Ja. For Memphis to reach their full potential, and they know this, they need Bane to play at that all-star level. And I don't see any reason not to expect him to, even though they like Dylan Brooks. But I would put Bane as right there, and he's a guy that I'm like, Bane silver PSA 9 for $30 sold. Like I've been buying cheap Banes during the, during
people
this
love Bane. You're right. People like he sells. I mean,
he's fun. He's a great player to watch too.
Yeah. The shows that I've been able to make it to, he seems to be one of the top guys. Him and Maxey, who have unfortunately both been injured, but hopefully coming back to full strength. And that's great. Great calls. I think you're right. And good to hear you say, like, you're not agreeing with everything I'm saying, but generally with these guys at those prices feels right. And it's good to lock in like, as much as I love to find a card and grade it, I also love to lock in a cheap PSA 10 of a top guy.
Right.
What you said about Zion and Ja, like you took the words out of my mouth, because one point I did want to make is that if your preference isn't Edwards, Cade, Green, but you like the concept of finding these base PSA 10s or base optic hollow PSA 10, optic hollow PSA 10, whatever, or even a optic base PSA 10, whatever you're
right.
If you like the concept and you want to pick the right player, I would put Ja and Zion right there with the other guys that I'm talking about.
And LaMelo, yeah.
And LaMelo, yes, and LaMelo, 100%. LaMelo's like a guy that I'm also looking for, like, just no-brainer LaMelos. Like I found a couple of them already in Market Movers, like preparing for this episode, and just
I do find it easier. I find it easier to flip guys that I don't love. Like I don't love LaMelo, but I bought a LaMelo rookie like a while ago for $20. It looked great. Sent it in, PSA 10. It's for sale. Message me at Hoops and Cards on Instagram. Like I do see that as a shorter term thing. Whereas I did go all in and buy a Ja Morant PSA 10. I do love Maxey. I've got a couple hundred Maxies. Like those, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, like either way, buying in to lock in that grade that you've got on a player that has upside while the market's down. Totally. And at the same time, I like the idea of flipping players. You know what I'm saying?
That totally makes sense.
Buying grade too.
And Jordan Poole was mine. Like, I don't love Jordan Poole, but I'm like, oh, people love Jordan Poole. And I found one at a good price at the National, had it graded, made my best sale of all time there. The PSA 10 helped, but I got a Contenders rookie Optic rookie ticket auto, graded, got a 10, went from $300 to $1,400 on a Jordan Poole. And if that would have been a player that I actually loved, I probably might not have profited as much because I would have held it and then not had the selling window and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I would just add one thought. If you're going to try to buy a card of one of these players and have it graded, there is more quick upside. There's more of a return on there, but don't buy that. You have to be careful not to buy the player. You have to have a card that jumps out at you when you see it and they're like, that's probably a 10, or have other people around you go, yep, that's a 10. Because on my latest group, I got back I've been trying to get a Darius Garland card to 10 for me, like a nice silver prism. And I think I've had 5 of them grade as a 9. I'm like, crap, I just want a Darius silver 10. I don't want to pay $300 for it. I just want to buy this $25 card. Anyway, I got an Optic Hollow, the silver Optic rookie of Garland. And it was a card that as soon as I saw it at the show, I'm like, that's a 10. Send it in, it's a 10. So
nice.
Like it had to be the card. The card has to speak to you as perfect.
Yes.
Not like you willing it into action. Like, I really want to get a 10 on this Giannis. Wishing it so isn't going to make it reality. So.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Great call. I love this in particular, what you said, like other people around you at the show. If other people around you are like, ooh, that's, yep.
And sometimes I'll ask them, like, I'll ask the seller, like, do you just not grade cards? Like, do you not send that in? Did you just get that card? And they'll tell me the story. Yeah. They'll tell me a story around it. The best of them will say, they'll pull the card out and they'll say, actually, here's a dimple on the front. I'm like, oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah. I really like that Ja Morant card, but now I'm not going to buy and grade it. Right.
And like, if I think like phrases, it'd be fun to put together phrases, and you're good at with your t-shirts too. But like one phrase that stands out to me is when a really experienced dealer, if they say, ooh, worst case, that's a 9. If they say worst case, that's a 9,
right?
That's code for good chance at a gem mint. You know what I mean? Like they're trying not to. They might not even want to sell it because they're now all of a sudden they're thinking, like, do I need to keep that?
Oh yeah. And in that conversation, throw comps out the window. Like you can't say, well, the last, LaMelo Ball raw sold for $8. Well, look how off-centered it is. Like actually look at what you're comparing, right? Because the value of a card that looks like it, worst, it's going to 9. People are going to pay a little bit more, and we should. It's worth more.
Absolutely. Gary, is there anything else you want to add for today's episode before we sign off?
I guess I already got my Desmond Bane plug in. I really hope Maxey returns to the starting lineup. They're playing really well with DeAnthony Melton in there instead of him.
He looks good.
So I think interesting is the sports card market, basketball cards, to see what the market's going to do. As pro football and World Cup start to fade away into the off season. I want to see what I've been believing happens every year, right? Basketball gets more eyeballs on it. People start to collect and buy more. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also like a little bit nervous because I'm more all in this than I've ever been, in basketball cards. And I'm almost uncomfortable giving a list of buy now guys because I'm done buying. I'm ready for the All-Star game to get here and start selling some things. If I have stuff to sell, it's like Jalen Hurts. I'm selling football. So
makes sense.
Yeah. And hey, thanks for all you do with your rankings and specific cards and these kind of shows. I'm so glad we got connected. I'm not like trying to be all Happy New Year sappy with you, but like, I'm so grateful for what you do. Love being able to refer our listeners at Hoops and Cards to nooffseason.com as a great resource. I hope you guys check us out on YouTube and our podcast as well. If you want to hear about basketball stuff more than, once a week, we're here for you. And I love learning from guys like you, from others in the hobby that are doing the grind, but also talking about it. So
same thing. The feeling is mutual. You put out amazing content. You have great value to your audience. I highly encourage everybody check out Hoops and Cards, the podcast, hoopsandcards.com. Everything Gary's doing is, very, very strategic, and check out his merch. His apparel is actually really good. It's
not available yet. This is a one of one sweatshirt I've got. So
I might start investing. I'm gonna try to be an early investor in Gary's apparel lines because he showed me some of the ideas for t-shirts and such, and they're They're pretty outstanding. So Gary and I are going to continue to create content with each other. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. And don't forget a couple things. In addition to Gary's great content, check out, we got a new show sponsor. I mentioned him on the Sports Card Strategy show with Kendall earlier, but bobscardmarket.com. If you go to bobscardmarket.com, they've got an amazing Discord. Check that out. A lot going on their Discord. And of course, you can go premium free for a year. We've talked about nooffseason.com and the rankings a lot on this episode. I want to give you a free year of our premium sports card investment report. Just email me at paul@nooffseason.com to find out how. All of the hoops and cards people that have come over are like my favorite. So no offense if you didn't come over from Hoops and Cards, but all the Hoops and Cards people that have come over to nooffseason.com.
We are a committed tribe over here, man. You
best.
got some of our best people. Ryan.
Ryan's amazing.
For sure.
The list goes on and on for sure. And it's time to cue the rock music, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Basketball Card Strategy Show. We'll be back. Don't worry. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.